couple of information just for you to help you. This is our coffee house. We're going to call this improv. If you ever saw a thing called Whose Line Is It? That's kind of what we're playing today. Those of you who are introverts, don't panic. I'm not going to put you on the spot. I promise that. The point together today is to have conversations with each other about things in life that are important to all of us. In the Christian church, it says to go and make disciples. That means we have conversations and we get involved in each other's lives. We're going to talk a little bit about how we do that just in fun. Everyday things that we're going to do. So there are table leaders at each table. Your first activity, their goal is to just let you be in conversation at your table. There may be instructions for you to come up with an end product. If we do that, only the extrovert at the table needs to share at the end. All the other introverts can just clap on and just wonderfully encourage and support that person. Okay? And when you give your summary, if I call for a summary, then you will give a very short summary. All you extroverts, short summary. Not every conversation you have around the table. You will have a minute or less to do that in, so you're going to want to summarize that really, really well together. Food and fellowship happens the whole time. There's coffee. Thank you ahead of time for those of you that came and brought food and set up, and those that agreed to be table leaders. There was a lot of work, a lot of hands that went in this, so thank you ahead of time. We've got a couple special features. Normally in our coffee house we do not take an offering, but I'm going to tell you we are taking a special offering today. We have one of our members has a friend who has a husband and wife situation where the husband has got a real strong possibility of being deported, and she's 9 months pregnant. So that family doesn't know what they're going to do. So there is an offering plate up front, over here to the side. If you'd like to contribute to that, we'd love to be able to help that family with that new baby and with a very tenuous situation that they're in. And right next to that, we have a special candle. Dean's going to talk a little bit more about that. And that candle is in honor of Randy Jones, who was one of the members of Blue Water who passed recently, and a tremendous member of this church. And we want to just really acknowledge that sweet, precious life and what he did for Jesus while he was here with us. And he'll speak more to that. So this time I'm going to pass out the exercises to your table leaders. They will identify themselves, and you're going to have about 5 minutes to work through, or maybe 3 or 4 minutes to work through the exercise. So you're not going to want to take a lot of time.
It's always been surrounded by like doing it for the Spirit. Like my first guitar teacher, the way I learned to play the instrument was the worship leader at my church. And it was just such an honor for me to work up the ranks, and he let me play in the church for my first time. And it was one of the coolest experiences I've had, and I've not stopped playing since. That's been 4 years ago. So it's kind of been a lot of fun just growing up with that and going with that. I started to sing recently, and I'm not an angel's voice, but I try my best.
I'm Marshall. Normally my drums are a lot bigger and louder than this. But we started playing guitar around the same time. This one passed me real fast. But I was still with the church trying to figure out what instrument fit me the best. And I came on to drums, and thankfully I was able to worship and help others connect through Jesus. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Ava. I've been singing for almost a year now, and I kind of started singing out of nowhere, but I really enjoy it, and I love to worship with it, so I'm glad I have that talent.
My name is Riley. I've been playing bass for about 2 years now. I started playing whenever this band came up, and we decided they needed a bass, so I'm ready to help.
He's doing a great job. Now, this next song is going to feature my brother and I. My grandmother asked us to play a little instrumental kind of thing to kind of have a showcase of our abilities. So I hope you like it.
ask them. They're actually, all of them are pretty precious, and I'm really, really proud of how they're already loving Jesus with what they do in their lives. So it's just, couldn't ask for anything more. We're going to do our third activity. Tony is passing around a basket with the instructions in it, and your table leaders will tell you, basically you're going to create a story with everyday items. Sometimes when we are trying to share our faith, we're like, it doesn't come naturally, I don't know how to do this, I don't know how to talk about Jesus when I'm doing this, or doing this, or doing this. So we're going to just play this little game. We use everyday activities to create a story and help us to have tools to how to take anything and help us to talk about our faith or about Jesus and that. So you'll have about 5 minutes, and then you might, and then we're going to have a little sharing time with what you came up with, a real short sharing time with what you came up with. So you're going to get a basket and get started.
Hi, Dean. Good morning. I'm delighted that everyone is here as the pastor of Blue Water Community Church. I'm delighted that Safe Harbor United Methodist Church is sharing facilities and invited Blue Water Community Church and the wider community to join you for Coffee House Worship. As Pastor Lori was beginning our time together, I was just observing the room, and the energy, the laughter, the interactions, the opportunity to meet and engage with new people was palpable and wonderful. And I'm delighted to be a part of it, and I'm glad that you all are here. Pastor Lori mentioned that we have a candle over here. That's in memory of a dear member of Blue Water Community Church, Randy Jones, who died this week. Randy and his wife June have been long-time vital members of Blue Water Community Church, members of the wider Niceville community, and it's hard to overstate the impact that Randy and June have had in our community and in the life of our congregation. For a number of years, Randy dealt with Parkinson's disease, and even as he continued to face struggles with his physical body, he was faithful in coming to worship. He was faithful in continuing to do what Christ allowed him to do. And it was a quiet but strong testimony of one who, even in the midst of really difficult circumstances, continued to be faithful. June contacted us and let us know earlier this week that Randy's time was short. He was in hospice care at the Manor at Blue Water Bay. And our congregation was able to come together on Thursday and be with Randy in his room there. We shared stories of what he had meant to us, lessons that he had taught us. Music was very important to Randy. He sang in the Northwest Florida chorale for a number of years. He directed the choir and led congregational singing here at Blue Water Community Church. And so when we were together, we sang, and we also played music that was important to him. And so I acknowledge the deep loss that our congregation has experienced this week, but also gratitude that we feel having known Randy and having been touched and blessed by his faithfulness. And so we have the candle here in his memory. I've been over here with the praise band, the young people. And while I teach at Northwest Florida State College, most of the time I'm with older people. And often I'm the youngest person in the room. And it's been delightful to be with young people and to be the old person at the table. Their energy, their insights, their creativity was really wonderful. And I've seen that echoed in all of the reports and the conversations and the ideas that tables have shared. As we wrap up today, I have an idea I want to share with you. In the New Testament, there are 4 Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. These are places where we hear primarily about Jesus' life, about his teachings, about his ministry, and each of them provides a slightly different angle on the teachings, the life, and the ministry of Jesus. But there are some stories that are included in all 4 of the Gospels. All 4 of the Gospels tell the story of Jesus' baptism at the beginning of his public ministry. All 4 of the Gospels tell about the end of Jesus' life, his triumphal entry into Jerusalem that we remember on Palm Sunday, his Last Supper with his disciples, his betrayal, his trial, crucifixion, and resurrection. And then there are 2 other stories that all 4 Gospels share. The first of those is the story of Jesus' miracle of feeding the multitude. And when you have a story in all 4 Gospels, it indicates that this is really important. The early Christians who shared the stories that eventually became compiled into the Gospels thought these were really important episodes. And there's one other story that appears in all 4 Gospels. Does anybody have an idea what it is? It's a tough question. It's the story of a woman who anointed Jesus with perfume, costly perfume. And it appears that this was so important to the early followers of Jesus who formed the church that the story was told widely. I want to share the account with you from the Gospel of John. It's in the 12th chapter, verses 1 through 8. 6 days before the Passover, Jesus came to Bethany, the home of Lazarus, whom he had raised from the dead. There they gave a dinner for Jesus. Martha served, and Lazarus was one of those at the table with him. Mary took a pound of costly perfume made of pure nard, anointed Jesus' feet, and wiped them with her hair. The house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. But Judas Iscariot, one of his disciples, the one who was about to betray him, said, "Why was this perfume not sold for 300 denarii and the money given to the poor?" He said this not because he cared about the poor, but because he was a thief. He kept the common purse and used to steal what was put into it. Jesus said, "Leave her alone. She bought it so that she might keep it for the day of my burial. You always have the poor with you, but you do not always have me." As we've gathered around tables today, we've talked about various things that are important to us, how we can reflect on those and share stories of those with people we encounter. We have used what was presented to us and available to us to share stories. And it's very interesting that Pastor Lori a number of times has mentioned extroverts, because as I was thinking of today, I thought today is an extrovert's paradise, right? You have a group of people around the table, and you get to talk at them. And you get to be selected to be the reporter who gets to share with a whole group about really interesting and amazing things. But I also recognize not everyone is an extrovert. And in this room, there are many introverts. Many people who probably would prefer a nice, quiet spot to have your delicious food and sip your good coffee, reflect on these ideas, and be satisfied. I thought about the story of this woman who anointed Jesus' feet because she did something very important, but she did not use words. She had what was available to her, what was important to her, and when she had opportunity, she shared it. Obviously, she shared it directly with Jesus, but also through her actions, her faithfulness and the importance of what was about to happen to Jesus during his last days have now been shared down through the centuries. As we have opportunities to share our faith, sometimes it involves words. Words are important, but actions also are very important. You do not have to be an extrovert who loves talking to people and being in front of crowds. You can be an introvert who is quiet and who uses what is there. And we have an example of that in this woman. I've also reflected on that as I thought about the life of Randy Jones from our congregation. Randy was quiet. He was an engineer, and he spent most of his working years doing things that were not loud and boisterous and attention-getting, but his faithfulness was clear, it was powerful, and through the Christ that he shared with others, people's lives were changed. And so, as you have opportunities this week, this month, and in the coming days, I invite you to share out of who you are. If you use words and love words, wonderful. If you're quiet, be quiet and be faithful. And know that in all of it, Christ can be shared and lives can be blessed.
The two songs they're going to do, they're on page, you're going to do page 21 first and then 20. The first one says, "This is Amazing Grace." It talks about who Jesus is. And I want you to really think about who he is to you when we sing that song. And so that God can take those thoughts and the way you love him and help you to use it to share that with others. That's the great news. That's the good news of the gospel. And the last one is, "Yes, I will." Take what we learned together today. The conversation has been amazing. And it has been wonderful. And we have built bonds, and we have shown Jesus just with each other at each table. So when we stand, we're going to stand on "Yes, I will." And I want you to think about how you can share your faith. Yes, I will share my faith this week. Praise to you.
We're going to do this next song. It's called "This is Amazing Grace."
Stronger, the King of Glory, the King above all.
let this be our prayer to God. Let's sing it to Him. Then we are closing. Page 20. Page 20. Yes, I will.
All right.